All right, well, welcome to today's webinar on continuous integration, building a strategy for IBMI using Git, Jenkins, and JIRA. My name is Floyd Del Muro. I am the Business Development Manager for ARCAD Software. Today I'm going to be joined by Ray Bernardi, our Senior Solutions Consultant. Ray is in New Hampshire. I am in Chicago. But Ray, why don't you introduce yourself and say a few words?
Hi everyone, my name is Ray Bernardi. I'm here with ARCAD to present continuous integration to you this morning. I've been with ARCAD for a little over 10 years, been in this industry for almost 25, so know the topics fairly well, and hopefully we're going to show you something that you'll like to see today. Go ahead, Floyd.
Alrighty, thank you. So some quick ground rules again. You can ask questions via the question panel. I would prefer the question, but there's also a chat panel in the GoToMeeting there. We'll try to address those questions in the Q&A portion at the end of today's webinar, but if something timely comes up, we'll try to take it in line. If you have any issues also, that's a good place to let us know. Your audio is currently turned off, so only Ray and I can kind of control the content today, but we hope to share quite a bit. So the main topic is continuous integration, and based on our experience, we're seeing many IBMI shops today consist of a hybrid development environment. They have teams that are trying to drive innovation as well as teams that are trying to protect the accumulated assets of the existing heritage, and I like to use heritage applications, the RPG or COBOL that might be being used to run and drive the business. So this drive towards innovation doesn't mean we want to try to kick out the IBMIs. Quite to the contrary, here at ARCAD, we accept the challenge and we want to make the features and functions more extensible. We want to make them available to your company and potentially even other people. I mean, there is an idea of an API community out there or an economy that can be used. So we want to expose those as web services, procedures. We want your core applications to continue to drive your business as it has for all these number of years. So some of this requires kind of a rethink on the new delivery models for some of these new enhancements, these innovations, new features now and in the future. And the introduction of some of these new processes and this really required collaboration will add additional strain to your existing kind of stack of tools. And more importantly, probably to your existing kind of app dev culture. So that means some of your existing processes and some of the tribal knowledge that people have, in addition to the tools, need to maybe morph a little bit or consider some sort of cultural shift. That, ladies and gentlemen, is kind of the start of where DevOps is. And DevOps can happen on the IBMI. It's not too good to be true. But there are some challenges you'll have to manage. And Ray and I hope to demonstrate that it's more than possible. We might even say that it's really a requirement to effectively meet the time to value goals that the business is demanding. It's not really a new topic. I've been talking about this a long time. I spoke last week at Interconnect, the IBM event, as well as a users group in Utah last week. The change is happening more today than ever, and we're seeing that. And as far as I know, ARCAD is the only solution that can still work in kind of the pessimistic model, and I like the way Ray describes it. It's the pessimistic means we kind of check it out, we kind of lock it, you make your change, and then you pass the code kind of down the line. We are here today to kind of let your eyes see a new paradigm that is widely accepted in all of the distributed programming circles. We could even present an element of social development, with or without the cloud. If you want, you could just keep this within the enterprise walls as your strategy, and Ray will highlight some of that. So this drive towards DevOps and Agile, it's part of the reason is it's been in the open source community for some time. It's been a standard there. It has a proven track record of success. So as the worlds begin to blend, cross-platform development, hybrid application, mobile and web development, that churn keeps continuing. We want the IBMI still to be the workhorse of your business. Now that said, there's some internal inertia that needs to be considered, and out of that, again, some of that tribal knowledge of the past and into this new development paradigm of composite applications needs to be considered. How you can allocate features and services and expose them quickly to drive that kind of business value. So with that, I'd like to, if possible, I'm just going to and I'm going to talk over this video, but I'm going to play this little video. There is no audio to this video, and hopefully this resonates a little bit with you. It's a little cute video that I liked, and what it really brings to mind is the idea of this technical debt, these kind of band-aids, this patch quilt work that we've done really over the last number of years to kind of help us achieve our goals, get over some of the significant humps that we've had and challenges. So the problem is it starts to make change kind of costly and difficult because we've got this kind of spaghetti code, and hopefully this video is kind of demonstrating that in a graphical way. You know, we've got this ball of yarn that we have been nurturing to keep the business moving forward. The beauty is that Power, and especially Power running IBM I, is a very resilient and secureable platform. Now we need to make it extensible, and it has really become the time where we need to pay down some of this technical debt. You know, our line of businesses have been spoiled. This has been a great platform. It's been a fairly inexpensive platform compared to others. I think there's plenty of cost justifications that IBM has put out there. But what we're talking about are the costs to change out and go to new servers, or kind of that rip and replace revolutionary model that we occasionally see. Your applications have been running your core business for some time. The risk would be off the charts if you were looking to kind of change your mission critical standing in your company by switching platforms or rewriting it. That is not a pretty story, but I think we could still provide somewhat of a happy ending here at the end of the day. So a little bit about who is ARCAD, and I'm kind of glad you asked, even though you didn't really ask. ARCAD was founded in 1992. We are celebrating our 25th year this year. It was born out of the European Space Agency. They had to initiate a project to ensure software quality, so we were born of that initiative, and now we've gone commercial with that. Our business slogan is, of course, it's not rocket science, but it used to be, is actually more true than fiction. I have to give Ray credit for that saying. We have a number of licenses, and we are deployed all over the world. We are a global software company in Europe, Asia, and Americas. We've won our litany of IBM and industry awards. Our innovative technology has been resold by IBM and business partners in this ecosystem since 2013. We currently actually integrate into 3 different solution brands at IBM, specifically around the IBM I, and we are clearly the leader in DevOps, test automation, and modernization on this particular platform. So let's get back to the topic today, which is continuous integration, continuous delivery. I would even add continuous improvement, because that's one of the fundamental principles of DevOps. And today's discussion will hopefully show you how we have been leading the innovation in DevOps within this platform. Ray's going to take you through a demo shortly, kind of a mini-series, a day in the life of the developer. The concepts that we plan to show you today, we've solved, as I mentioned, back prior to even 2013 when we became commercially available through IBM. We worked out all this integration with Rational Team Concert, RTC, which is the commercial offering from IBM for project management and source control. Today we're going to show you JIRA, Jenkins, and GitHub to handle that kind of same IBM I integration environment. So the goal today is to educate, to expand the discussion around these SCM tools, these other SCM tools that may be already being utilized inside your hybrid development teams or inside your IT tool stack. As I mentioned, we've been doing this for a number of years. There is no other company that can match our expertise or experience around IBM I DevOps and open technology integration. So for most of us that run on the I, our risk tolerance is fairly low. Most of the applications that we support are often usually mission critical, especially in our client base, because most of ours industry segments that we're heavily involved in include banking, insurance, financials. These guys do not like downtime. So we are not like per se the unicorns born of the web companies like Facebook. So Facebook, for instance, really only has 4 applications. They have Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, Instagram. And for the most part, they're always experimenting and breaking things all the time. These applications, for the most part, are standalone, and they very rarely commingle. in Facebook's case, Facebook and Messenger, just a little bit. But if they break, they will just roll forward and fix it. Netflix, another born of the web, is a little bit more resilient, streaming video. They have a little bit of a lower tolerance, but it's still just one application. So these digital disruptors, these unicorns, born of the web companies, they manage few applications by comparison. It is clear we're not going to be one of them, but can you still do DevOps to scale as an enterprise? Absolutely. And this kind of leads to my next slide, and this concept of two-speed IT. So I'm going to give you a disclaimer real fast. If I was making a business case to your executives, to your line of business, I wouldn't necessarily start with this particular slide. I'd have another slide that kind of tells the same story, and I wouldn't necessarily have this particular discussion this way. But since most of our audience is IT, it's going to be an acceptable approach. So I'll give you a little story around this, and it's based on a true story, a bank in Australia. So we have our bank that's been very successful running the business on the core RPG applications on IBM I. They would reside down here in that system of record location. However, they're trying to attract new customers, and they're trying to become a little bit more innovative from the line of business side. And as I mentioned, completely successful already running on I. But what I'd like to do is take advantage of some of the nuances to onboard new clients, be able to apply for a loan online. My wife has done this, but I never have. You could actually take a picture of a check and deposit it directly into your account from my mobile phone. Now that system of engagement, that mobile phone, can be fairly fragile. I mean, the phone can fail. I may need to take the picture again or submit it twice. However, if we get back to that risk tolerance, the back end, the system of record, I can't afford to have that same check deposited twice. So there starts the story of kind of two-speed IT. Gartner changed the term to bimodal IT because they didn't really want to imply that one team was slower than the other. The issue is the same. One team can accept higher risk, being innovative. They could be quick to fail. They could determine quickly from feedback if it's working. The other side has a very low risk tolerance. One will measure time to failure. The other will measure kind of mean time to recovery. So those are just fancy ways of saying how long can I experiment on the innovation side or your system of engagement side, and my time to certainty on the systems of record or your industrial core side. But at the end, we kind of have to work together, because to put out this new feature, this innovation, this function, requires a change sometimes on the back end. And there's really three pillars here that are important in this kind of bimodal model. In alignment, we have to have that kind of team visibility as we plan together. Ray will be using JIRA today and some of the examples in there to kind of demonstrate there that particular component. Automation, we'll be using kind of GitHub and ARCAD integrated seamlessly to JIRA so that you can reflect status updates and see that real time as code is being branched off. And lastly, coordination and deploy, continuous delivery. I often say you kind of have to date and then you break up and then you kind of get back together here. So imagine we're discussing requirements, we're aligning our resources to start, then the different teams can go develop tests using as much automation as possible to facilitate speed and manage the associated risk. We eventually want to connect again to coordinate integration, final testing, and orchestrate that deployment across multiple servers. As a safety net, we also have to be able to roll that back from all the servers if recovery is needed. So we want to get all those pieces back cross-platform. And the question I ask is, this kind of your world, is this the future model for your IT strategy? It should be if you wish to stay competitive. That would be my argument. That's more in my view. I'll give you an example. Did you know that from New York Business that 52% of the Fortune 500 companies since 2000 are now gone? Okay, 52%. No more Kodak. No more Blockbusters. Netflix and their streaming video model disrupted Blockbusters, and no longer weekend trips to Blockbusters. The largest taxi company owns no taxis. That would be Uber. And the largest retailer has no inventory. That's Amazon. So I would urge you to be that change moving forward. People 3 years ago would come up to me and say, what do you guys do? And this used to be on our booth. And I get it. The market wasn't there yet. But we were ready. and we were in that kind of magic quadrant all by ourselves. This is still very valid today. It's a simple, straightforward, simple model of the overall strategy we have. We show the ARCAD repository where the database sits, and it is cross-platform in one single location. We have since modernized the model. We kind of show the plugins to the other source control management tools, such as RTC or Microsoft Team Foundation Server. And by the way, if you didn't know, RTC and Team Foundation also support Git. And as I mentioned, RTC is where we originally started. So in this model, we hand off source control, but we want to eliminate manual handoffs. That is what continuous integration means. You are going to want basically $1 every time Ray and I say continuous integration through this webinar. The truth is that that pessimistic checkout model that is used often in IBM I for source management is really not true source control, not versioning. And it will not work very well as you start to morph to this hybrid development environment. It is really more of a practice silo in our world. One of the key things is how we manage the smart builds inside the ARCAD components. It collects what's being done, and it uses the ARCAD repository to figure out how to handle IBM I artifacts correctly when you're making those changes, and it does it automatically. And that's going to be very important if you want to be accurate and fast. So we'll learn more about that as we get deeper into the presentation. Here's a quick slide that focuses on the products and features discussion today. As I mentioned, we started as an IBM I-centric change management company. The term, by the way, it only pertains to our world because in other development circles, they split change management into source control management and release management, two separate functional areas. Basically, at ARCAD, we continue to provide the needed technical areas that are unique to the IBM I. We call those platform responsive tooling or functionality. But we also integrate well with these other platform responsive processes and tools that you might have. So we're going to go down the line here. We're going to talk a little bit about Observer. We're going to talk a little bit, but not necessarily our native source control piece. We're going to be talking about Git there. We're going to talk about Builder, Verifier, and our delivery mechanisms. Just a quick little new model again. And I don't really want to get bogged down here. I just want to refer to these functional areas so you have an understanding and can adopt some of the terminology moving forward. When you have an integrated tool stack, it really helps to have kind of a roster of players. So the real take-home message is that we support a typical checkout lock change code model that you may employ today, but we are not stuck there, and neither should you. So hopefully that will become apparent today. This is the same model with some of the open source tools being depicted. We've added Freeform RPG. If you didn't know, we have a module that can convert fixed to free. Free is not your grandfather's version of RPG anymore. We also include JIRA here, which is kind of a cloud-based ticket handling and project management. So the question I hope we answer today is, how do you work with your heritage code, your accumulated assets, the applications that are currently driving your business today? And how are you driving innovation? We're asking, how do you blend that industrial core, your business advantage, and deliver those feature functions to the innovation teams that are beginning to develop in these open source toolings using code like PHP, Java, just to name a few of those languages. These teams of innovation will drive back-end changes to support their quest for these new and innovative, exciting ways to engage new and existing customers. And at the end, we're all trying to serve the business and drive more business value. So welcome to the 21st century in terms of app dev. We, and I actually mean Ray, is now going to show you how we blend these formerly disparate worlds of open source and IBM I by using kind of a shared mixed stack of processes and tooling centered around a simple kind of IBM I day in the developer change today. I'm not going to show you how to build a specific business case here. Hopefully you know the reasons, and I could definitely help you with any sort of justification model moving forward. Today's discussion is designed to be a little bit more technically driven, since that is our audience today. But we would welcome the chance to talk to you and make a business case for DevOps, or assist you if you're stuck in that quest. Just give us a call. Today's presentation and demo, again, will be a combination of ARCAD along with tools from the distributed world. We chose JIRA, GitHub, and Jenkins today. If you have other players in your toolbox, I urge you again to talk to us about an alternative path. We chose these specific tools due to their level of traction in the ecosystem. No other IBM ISV vendor can equal our breadth of integration or innovation here in this community, and that would even include IBMI, which is why they resell our technology. Only ARCAD software is doing this. Our combination of transformer, modernization tools, along with our functional offering in the DevOps stack, is really a proven path of success if your goal is to serve the business from an IT and provide that value. Others are going to attempt to follow, but we are prepared today to show you that we are already there. So the last point I will make is how this will also address another issue that's plaguing our future on this platform, and that's the need to onboard new young IT and specifically developer talent to bring longevity and continued value to those core applications. We hope to show you we do that better, faster, and cheaper. And with that, I am going to hand things over to Ray. And Ray, go ahead and take control, and I will sit back and watch.
All right, so hopefully everybody can hear me. And let me go ahead and get my PowerPoint up here and running. I'm just going to go through a couple of slides here. Talk about some of the tools that Floyd just talked about so that we can identify these tools and get an idea of what they are and how we're going to be using them. So JIRA, a tool from an Australian company, possibly why we have the audience we have today, not sure. It's basically bug tracking. It's issue tracking, project management. The name JIRA, it actually inherited from a Japanese word, Gojira, and that actually stands for Godzilla. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. The basic use of this tool is to track issues and bugs, related to your software and your mobile apps and so on. Now, today's talk is about continuous integration, and you can't really do that unless you're agile. So that's why JIRA is kind of in the mix today. JIRA is really an agile tool. It brings an agile methodology and automation to the issue tracking portion of making changes. And really, that's important to any shop that is doing DevOps. And that's, again, what we're here for today, continuous integration, DevOps, and so on. So JIRA uses boards to display information. They convey information very quickly. You have Scrum boards, Kanban boards, and so on. So a team can look at a Scrum board and see a sprint backlog very, very quickly. These boards can take many different forms. They can look like sticky note boards and so on. So it's really up to you how you're going to do this. And what these boards are designed to do is to communicate quickly, the status, the progress of issues and that type of thing, and to allow you to work on them. Now, I'm not sure if anybody's heard Kanban before. I'm sure a lot of you have, but maybe some haven't. That's a method for managing the creation of your products, and it has an emphasis on continuous delivery, continual delivery. The idea is to not overburden the development team while that's happening, though. So it's kind of like Scrum. It's a process designed to help teams work together, work more effectively. That's the idea. Of course, there's reporting, planning, things like that available as well. Now, Jenkins, another tool that you're going to see today. This is an open source automation server. This is all written in Java. So this is a server-based system, runs in a servlet container, places like Apache Tomcat and so on. And what this is designed to do is to support SCM tools, AccuRev, CVS, Subversion, Git, for instance. We're talking about that. ClearCase, RTC. So Jenkins can execute Apache Ant, Apache Maven, SBT-based projects, and it can also kick off arbitrary shell scripts, Windows batch commands, and so on. Jenkins is free software, so there's no cost here. And builds can be triggered by various means. Jenkins is going to be the build trigger in today's demonstration. So again, you can trigger that build by various means. For example, a commit in a version control system like Git, okay? That's what we're going to do today. So Jenkins is by far the most accepted engine out there, most accepted build engine out there, probably the standard, quite frankly. Now, obviously today, we're also going to get into version control. And that's what Git is. The main difference between Git and most of the other version control tools out there is the fact that it's decentralized. So in most tools, when you do a checkout, what you're getting is the tip revision of a file. With Git, what you actually have when you perform a checkout is a full mirror of the central repository. That's where you start from. So this repository lives everywhere. Therefore, if any server dies, any other collaborating system can restore the repository to that server. So there's a lot of redundancy and a lot of safety there. So with each developer having a full repository, they can branch and do whatever they see fit. And the reason this is so effective is because it's all done locally. There's not a lot of network communication happening here, okay? So they've got a full version. They're branching. They're doing what they want to do locally, standalone, extremely fast. So this is really popular with most of the modern languages out there. And you just heard me say extremely fast. That means it's really adapted to an agile workflow. All right, we're going to be using Eclipse today. eGit plugins are available. You can even put Git in the cloud if you would like to. Now the goals here were very simple. Fast, simple, strong support, non-linear development, very important, fully distributed. And you just heard me mention the cloud. We're going to talk about the cloud today. The cloud can host your code. We're going to be talking about GitHub. GitHub can host private code, public code. They share code. They'll host it for free. You can, of course, pay to have your code kept private and so on. Also understand that there's GitHub Enterprise out there too. And what that means basically is you can internalize that. So you can install that on your own systems, and you basically have a GitHub server and all the benefits of it. So just keep that in mind, that you'll hear me talk about the cloud today. For the I-Series, for this, IBM guys, that's kind of an idea. It's like, put my code in the cloud. I'm not doing that. You don't have to, but you'll hear the cloud today a lot. Here's GitHub. It's basically a web-based version of Git. So you can do the same thing as before. It offers everything that you can do in source control and functionality. The same thing as Git, but it adds its own features as well. So this is going to give you access control, give you a whole bunch of collaboration features. You can do. We're going to be hooking in JIRA to do the bug tracking. You can watch things through this interface and so on. This is kind of like Git on Facebook. I guess that's probably the best way of describing this. You'll actually see this happen, and you're going to see it's a very social thing, and it's a way to collaborate and do it very well. Now, remember, it's hosting repositories. What's the acceptance rate of this thing? Fairly good, okay? I mean, as of today, they report over 18 million users, and they have over 85.5 million repositories. And now think about that. All the public repositories you can browse and you can download, right? Of course, your private ones are secure. The cloud isn't for everyone. We talked about that. Again, your other option, GitHub Enterprise. Don't forget that, okay? So that's GitHub. We're going to see that today as well. So really what I've just kind of done is defined a tool set to you, the stack that we're going to be working with today. This tool set can be common for all your teams. So there should be less training for existing staff. You should have less maintenance. Everything is integrated here. There's no bottlenecks. Nothing artificial in your way. Hopefully your teams won't be spending time stitching tools together, things like that. So where is ARCAD in this whole picture then? Well, ARCAD is addressing the gaps in this picture around the IBM I. And if you look at the slide, you can see where we're addressing it. We're addressing it in the areas of development, code review, testing, deployment. I mean, you're going to see a solution today with JIRA, planning, task tracking, things like that. You're going to see Git, managing the source repository. But what about application analysis? What about impact analysis? What about testing? What about deployment of the change? So this is where ARCAD Observer comes in, impact analysis. ARCAD Verifier, automated testing, drops, sending changes out to any server. So this is all around continuous integration. That's what this is all about. You have to automate these processes. ARCAD's build and release management, that's builder right here. This is, if you take away nothing today, take away what builder does, okay? Because this is the thing that's going to make sure whatever Git hands off, okay, we're going to handle it for you on the IBM side. Dependency management. We're going to get the change right all the time so that when you deploy, you don't miss anything and you don't break anything. And that's really important. So there are gaps in this, and ARCAD fills those. So we're looking at a modern tool set here. It's designed for a modern developer building modern software. And that's really where you have to get to. So DevOps cycle, we're changing this thing now. We're making it a fully integrated, automated workflow. And this can happen from the time a problem comes in the door until you resolve that problem and you're putting components out there on the right servers. We're automating the build. We can automate testing. We can automate deployment to the servers. And we're using the tools that the community has accepted and loves. All right. So here's why we're here today. Here's an example configuration, okay? Kind of what this thing looks like. We're going to use JIRA, of course, task tracking here. We got GitHub. We got it out in the cloud. Again, enterprise brings that home. You don't have to have it out in the cloud. But this is a fairly typical architecture. I mean, what happens here basically is a developer clones to their local PC, right, from the cloud. So connect to the repository, give me the latest and greatest, make the changes the way they see fit. Remember, they're working locally. Branch, merge, do whatever they'd like. Stage, commit, just normal Git operations. When they're done, they can push that all back to the remote server up there in the cloud. Developer here can, use Git and RDI. That's pretty typical. We're going to see that. ARCAD, we're going to have that plugged in. ARCAD Builder in particular, you heard me just talk about that. So when a build gets requested, ARCAD Builder finds those IBM components that have changed. Now it's using the ARCAD repository to do that. We'll get a little bit about that today too. This is a full DevOps picture. And for a full DevOps picture, you can't leave out testing. We talked about that. There's Verifier. That'll automate that for you. So, I mean, if you look at this diagram, really, what we're saying is ARCAD can handle and automate most aspects of a change that you're doing manually right now, especially on the IBM side of things. All right, especially, I mean, all the way down to deployment. That's drops right here that can automatically deploy anywhere for you. So we're looking at a soup to nuts solution here, from ticket origination all the way to artifacts being dropped on production servers, and all of it can literally be automated. So how do you get there? There's surely some setup and things that you have to do, and that's true. Okay, we're going to just buzz through these slides here and get to a demonstration, but we're going to be using JIRA. We've already done some configuration for today's demo. What we've done is we've created a project out there. We've got a project team set up. We've added some workflows and some workflow triggers. So events in GitHub will trigger changes to the JIRA items based on our requirements. So there is some configuration here between GitHub and JIRA that's being done. In GitHub, we've created a repository. And that repository is there to contain our code. And what we did was we uploaded that repository to GitHub. We're going to use it in the cloud today. And really, basically a simple process. You create an empty project, you link to iProjects, you push the IBM source to the repository in a first commit. There's really nothing hugely complicated to setting up a GitHub repository for the first time. So that was done. In Jenkins, of course, that's been installed. We've got it installed on a Windows server. We've also installed the ARCAD Builder plugins into Jenkins. Okay, so you'll see those plugins a little bit later. I'll show those to you. Those plugins are there to perform the dependency analysis, and again to make sure the IBMI part of the change is done and done correctly. And on the IBMI, what do we got? Well, that's where ARCAD server lives. All right, that's where we define an application. And that's telling us your libraries, your directories, where is the code, okay? And then we build a repository. And that repository, you can see that I've got this, area right here, application cross-references generated. That repository is the pillar for the smart build that you've heard me talking about, this dependency management. So the repository knows all about your IBMI artifacts, how to create them correctly, and so on. So what we've also done to get ready for this is we've opened up a version in ARCAD, and a version is really just a container for the change. It's going to receive the components from the build request. So the build request we're going to kick off in Jenkins. It's going to do its thing, going to talk to ARCAD Builder, figure out dependencies, deliver a group of components to a container that's ready to be transferred and deployed. And in the example today, it actually automatically deploys as well. So all of this gets triggered automatically. It all depends on how you want to do it. All right, the builds can be happening every 10 minutes if you would like. On the developer's workstation, here's the tools we've given them. We're going to be seeing RDI. You're going to see the eGit plugins. Okay, the ARCAD plugins are there as well, and we're going to see those. What we've done in there is we've created an iProject, and we've connected that to the GitHub repository. And we've also today configured, but we're not really going to get into it too deeply because of time constraints and so on. We've got automatic testing kicking off, and that can happen as well. All right. So here's what you're about to see. We're going to create a task in JIRA, get it assigned. We're going to have a developer use Git, perform the development activity. You're going to see some branching occur. Okay, developer's going to create a local branch, make the change, do all that. I'm going to use ARCAD Observer to do my impact analysis. So you'll see where ARCAD adds value there. When the change is done, we're going to push that back up to the Git repository. We're going to go through an approval process and peer evaluation. You'll see that. That's going to happen. We're going to get an approval to go forward. These steps are all in here. I'm not going to cover every one of these in bullet points, obviously. They're here because we're going to provide this to you after, and you'll be able to watch this and you'll be able to see exactly what we did during this demonstration. All right, we're going to get that change accepted. We're going to merge our development branch back into the master branch. You're going to see it trigger changes in JIRA, closing the task. We're going to trigger a build, look at the artifacts, see what we get out of that. We're going to validate testing and go forward. So I guess without any further ado here, let me go ahead and get into the demonstration portion of this. So bear with me just for a second while I bring this up here. All right, so here's what, hopefully you're seeing my screens okay. So we're in JIRA right now, okay? So this is JIRA, and basically what you see in here is a Kanban board, okay? So it acts like sticky notes. On the left-hand side, you see in the backlog, what you got in progress and so on. You don't really make changes here. It's just kind of feeding you information. Actions that you perform during development are going to trigger the changes here. Again, automation, DevOps, right? Being agile. What you see in here is the description of the task. This is what we need to do. And what we're going to do is we're going to, work on adding a field to a file today. Down here, development issues, events rather. Nothing to report yet. We haven't started. Okay. So that was JIRA. This is the Git perspective. Okay. We're going to use this to look at the repository. Just showing it to you briefly because it's going to come into play during this. So you can see the local and remotes. We'll talk about that a little bit more. The iProject perspective is also going to come into play today. What we've done here is we've created a project. We've connected it to our repository and so on. So you will see that. But what do we have right now? What we have right now is a task assigned to us. We've got something to do. We're supposed to add a field to a physical file. I would assume that we should start with analysis, quite frankly. So what I've done here is I've switched over to the ARCAD perspectives. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at the repository that ARCAD has out there on ARCAD server. So this is that repository I just talked about that knows all about your system, all your links, how things work, okay? And what I'm doing is I'm asking for a file and how this file is used on the system. So I'm a developer doing analysis right now. I'll do some analysis, I'll ask for some use, and you can see here that this file is not used directly, but there's a logical attached to it. These are the items that are used, okay? And if I need to, I can drill down deeper. For instance, I could do a right click on this. I can drill down in, see the calling chain, get to programs, ascending and descending. So here's the calling chain for that, what calls it and so on. This could be great information when you're trying to figure out a workflow, something like that. And speaking of workflows, we can actually go further with this, okay? This can diagram. So here's a flow diagram happening. And again, this is ARCAD Observer that you're seeing, okay? So there's the program that we started with. And what I'm doing now is I'm asking for linked data. What's related to this? And what I can see is anything that uses it or anything it uses. I can select all that quickly, easily, and say, bring that into a diagram for me. A single click, it's all here. I can say, select it all and make it pretty for me. Of course, this is a clip, so I can expand this to full screen if I want to. And then here is my diagram. And what you're seeing is a living diagram that you can work off of. I'm doing a right click on this. I can display more information. I can add to the diagram from here. Okay. So it's pretty, it's visual. You get an idea of what's happening in the system. This is really neat. Right click, analyze. We're going to go down to a field level from a diagram. So I just asked it, what fields make up this physical? When I click on this, I can actually see the lines of code down here that make up that particular, that's how it's defined in DDS. Okay, it works with SQL too, it's fine. We're going to go further. This is really neat. I started from a diagram, okay? And that diagram had a file, and now I'm drilling down to a field level, and I'm able to see everywhere in the system that this field gets used, and I can literally see every line of code that uses this field in the system. That's fairly powerful analysis tools, okay? So that's ARCAD Observer. Let's go ahead and clean up our workbench here, and let's get into the change a little bit further. So analysis is definitely there. We've got that covered, okay? Switching back to iProjects now. Now, remember where we are in this, okay? I have a project connected to a repository. You have to get ready to work, all right? So there's a couple of things we're going to do first. We're going to go to Team. We're going to come down here. We're going to switch. And what we're going to do is create our branch, all right? Now, this branch that I'm naming here would be named after the JIRA task. We're going to relate everything, okay? So we've got an IBM i20 branch built in the repository. What is that? That's local. Understand that, okay? I haven't really done anything yet. I've just set up for this particular change, all right? Now what I'll do is I'll go down here and I'll use the team features here, and we'll go ahead and we'll sync up the repository. And really what we're doing here is we're getting the workspace ready to go. So now the workspace is ready to go. You can see the history of the repository right here, everything that's ever happened to it, everything that's ever been done to it, okay? Not important to us right now. We'll take a look at it in just a little bit though. But there it is, if you need to know what's going on out there. And now let's go ahead and make our change. All right, so here comes our change. And the change is fairly easy to do. I mean, everybody knows how to do this. You double click on something and you do an edit. So there it goes. I'm going to pop in a line of code. I'm just going to uncomment this for speed's sake. So we're adding a field to this file, all right? Let's go ahead and save that and take a look at what happens here in the view, okay? So down here, unstaged changes. So this is GitHub and Git working now. So it's watching. It sees that I've changed that. I have not staged it. I can drag it to stage it. That is a logical staging. Nothing moved anywhere, okay? All locally. I just basically said flag this for my next commit. All right, let's go ahead and do a commit in my commit message, and we can control what goes into these messages. The JIRA task. So we're going to relate the commit to the JIRA task. We're relating what's happening in here to JIRA as well. So here's our branches now. I told you we'd take a look at the Git perspective. Understand something here, okay? Right now, locally, there's that branch that I'm working on, IBM 20. That's me as a developer. I branched locally, okay? If you look at the remote, and we're going to do that here, as soon as this thing starts moving again, all right? You can see that that branch is not out there, all right? So no push yet, nothing like that has happened. So there's my change. I'm doing my commit. Once I finish with this, there's my commit and push. That branch is going to be available out there, all right? And understand that, you know, it's still in development. Hasn't been merged back or anything like that, but there's the branch out there, and you can see where it's returned to. Now, that origin could be a branch of code, a project that you're working on. It could be the main line of code. It really depends on the project and how you set it up, where the origin is. So there can be many different things happening out here, and Git can handle all that development, all the merging and so on. So there's our branch. You kind of get the idea of what's happening during a commit and push now. So now what we're doing is we're popping back into JIRA. Now, things can get really confusing here if we're not careful. So I need you to pay attention, all right? JIRA is being updated by what we're doing in change management and so on, those actions. It's also a social place, okay? So we can see over here on the right-hand side that some things have occurred, all right? Now, I told you there's going to be collaboration. Now, we can get right down to, you know, exactly the item that was committed, that type of thing. So there's a lot of exposure in JIRA, all right? I'm going to be Michelle first, all right? There's two people involved in this change right now. Michelle's making my change. Mark is going to verify my change. Peer review, we talked about that. So right now, we are Michelle, okay? We can see what's going on in here. We can see the change. Everything has been tracked, everything that he's been done, okay? Now what Michelle has done is made the change, and he said, I think I'm ready. So he's opening up a pull request. Basically what he's saying is I want to return this change. I think I'm done. And he's pointing this at Mark, okay? So this is the social aspect now, and it comes out through JIRA. You can select whoever you'd like. You got your nice little avatars and all that neat kind of stuff. This is what I was talking about, Git on Facebook, okay? So we've addressed Mark here, and we're asking him to review what we've done. We've created that pull request. So we need to switch again, okay? We were Michelle, right? And now what we're going to do is we're going to be Mark, okay? And I'm waiting for my system to react here, okay? So like I said, we were Michelle. Now we're going to be Mark. So here's Michelle. We're acting as Mark. He asked us for a pull request. He asked us for it 30 seconds ago, whatever. You can see that. He can address this now. Now what he can do is he can take a look at everything that's gone on. He can actually see the lines of code that were changed. And he's taking a look at this, and he's saying basically, Michelle, you know what? We don't hard code field links here. We use field reference tables. So he's starting a review process. This change can't go forward, can't be merged back until this peer review is passed. All right? He's requesting changes. He's submitting that. We'll pop that in. Off it goes. So there he is basically saying, you know, looks okay, but a few other things that you have to do. This is how your punch list would get handled. Now, again, we would just Mark, all right? And now we're going to go back to being Michelle. So Michelle just got information from Mark. And Michelle is basically going to react to that information. And you can see how this is happening in this almost Facebook-like thread, okay? And you can see here that Mark has basically said, I need you to make some changes. He told him exactly what to do. Michelle can instantly say, I got it. I understand. So here's that collaboration that we talked about, all right? So you're starting to get the idea that there's a couple of players going back and forth here, bouncing back and forth. And now basically here's Michelle, okay, making further changes, trying to pass the peer review. because he can't return his change to production until he does. All right? Realize we're running just a little bit long here. I just got a few more seconds here to get through and show you some of the things that happen, because we have to get to the build and so on. So apologize for starting just a little bit late, but hopefully you'll hang with us and see this through. Okay? So here basically what we've done is made the further change. We're staging it. We're going to do a commit. We're going to do a push. Okay? We're going to put it back up there, and we're going to ask for further peer review. So that can all happen, again, automatically. All right? Now, other people, you're not flipping back and forth between different areas to see all this information. I'm trying to illustrate here, and hopefully I'm getting it across, that JIRA can show it all to you. Okay? Look where the task went to. The task is in progress, right? As a result of actions that we just performed. We didn't have to remember to come here and do that. It triggered it automatically. It did it for us. Over on the right-hand side, JIRA is tracking everything that occurs on this task. You can see every commit. You can see the pull requests. On the commits, you can break it right down to the component that was delivered during that. Okay? So everything is here within JIRA. Everything. All the development occurs within RDI and eGit. The repository behind everything is GitHub. It's controlling all of that. Okay? One last time, we're going to go back to being Mark. We're going to approve this pull request. Okay? Because we like the code now. We can see easily that Michelle did exactly what we asked him for. So, perfect, Michelle. Thanks. So there's collaboration, and it's almost like a Facebook social network. And your code is there. Your developers are all enrolled. They're all talking to each other. It's all handled. Everything is triggered automatically. So here comes the confirm of that. All right. Now what are we doing? We're merging back. All right. We finally got approval. We're doing the merge back. So that's the branch being returned. Now we can delete the branch. We don't need it anymore. All right. Dead branch. Okay. All the history's still there. We know that all that occurred. Now we need a build. That's the next thing. So here's Jenkins, our build engine. Remember, builds can be scheduled, happen automatically. There's a little bit of configuration that needs to be done. So what we need you to do, real quickly when you install it is put our plugins in. Got a build model here. We're targeting a version. So in other words, when we build, where do we put? Okay. That's really all we're asking in there. And here's a build. We'll go ahead and we'll kick one off. The build is running. Of course, the build is actually happening where? It's happening on the system I. Yeah. So you can go out there and look at it if you want to. That's where it's going on. When the build gets done, you can look at all the results. All right. So execution result of the build. Remember what we changed in Git. Okay. When we did our change, what we changed was that physical file. All right, look at the result of the build. Physical file, logicals, related components, etc. That's builder. All right, that's ARCAD rounding out the change for you. From here, you can pop into, you can look at the code if you want to, spool files, etc., etc. All that's available to you. Here's the import strategy that we used. Okay, so this is I remember where I am. I'm in Jenkins looking at all this stuff. So hopefully you're getting the point that no matter which one of these tools you use, you have full exposure. You see everything, right? There's the import strategy and what Git delivered, just the physical. So without ARCAD Builder, the rest of that stuff is not going to happen. All right, here's ARCAD Builder. Here's another way to look at it. So this is a client that we provide. In here, you can see everything that occurs, okay? ARCAD Builder is the thing that took care of the IBMI side of this change. In this case, it was only an IBMI change. Understand that all your open code can be in this change as well. So here we can see the build results. We can literally see everything that occurred during a build. What you're going to see basically are the file being created. There it is right there. All right. You're going to see authorities being applied to the file. You're going to see dependencies being created. It handles data, moves it out of the way, puts it back when it's done. It does all this automatically, okay? Without automation, you don't really have DevOps. It's just not going to happen for you. There are other ways to see this data as well. And again, from here you can get yourself to the spool files and things like that. It's all available here. You can look at your build model and that type of thing. So that's ARCAD Builder. And again, that'll help you look at what's going on. And I think the last way we're going to show this here is, excuse me, bear with me here real quick. There we go. We'll get this wrapped up here for you in just a second. Basically what we're doing now is just rounding out the change. We've got the build done. Real quick switch here. This would be ARCAD, and I'm not really going to get into this, but you know, here's the ARCAD version. You can see what was delivered to the version by the build. This is that container I talked about. Over here is the application defined. We have environments, development environments, testing environments. As part of this process, we have already delivered to the testing area. We've kept full object history and so on. All of that's available to you. You can see every bit of that. Okay, so you know, we do a transfer here as part of this as well. We drag and we drop, and we see the same information that we saw before, and that's basically the end of the change. So basically, we had JIRA. That's where the task came from. We used iProjects, eGit. We made a change. It talked to JIRA, triggered things there. We kicked off a build. Builder filled it out for us, rounded it out. I think hopefully you kind of get the idea of what we're actually trying to accomplish. Let me go ahead and just reset here. We're going to round this up. I'm going to wrap this up here real quick. So hopefully you saw what you came here to see today. There are definitely some advantages here. Okay, JIRA, Jenkins, ARCAD, Git, these things all work together, and this can be continuous integration. Remember, Jenkins can be waking up and triggering a build every 10 minutes, right? And if it's there, it's part of the build, right? So there's a lot of advantages to this stuff. These are really dynamic, fast, agile solutions. GitHub is truly impressive. It really is. We could spend an hour talking about it alone. I mean, that's why we're running a bit long here. There's just so much to show. Great code examples out there, things like that. Demonstration is not really about GitHub, but we can focus a demonstration that way for you if you'd like, okay? Go to their website if you'd like. They're out there. It's like Git on Facebook. I think you saw that. It's really a social place. It gets people talking, all right? And remember, this can all be free, all right? All this stuff can be free to download. Some recommendations: get agile. You need to get agile. That's what we talked about all day today. You can't do continuous integration without being agile, especially, you know, things like RTC and things like that. There's an old way of doing things, all right? A version with 5,000 components and it being handled manually. That's not adaptive. You can't do that. You need a tool to make yourself a little bit more agile. So I guess at this point what we'll do is I'll stop talking at any rate, and we'll pass this over for some questions, and we'll go ahead and see what kind of questions we got. I know we ran a little long. Go ahead, Floyd.
Yeah, so thank you, Ray. Thanks for the great demo. Apologize for going a little long. We started about 5 minutes late, so we'll be on maybe just for a few more minutes, and then we'll let you go. But some questions: can you use Git with Bitbucket instead of GitHub? And the answer is yes. Those are two distinct, different companies. Again, we chose GitHub because of their traction and market presence. You could use raw Git too as well, natively on the IBMI, but what you're going to lack are some of the GitHub features such as workflow and those pull requests. So one of the other questions I got here, and I think you already answered that, was, you know, somebody said, to access Git from IBM RDI, what additional software is needed to be installed on the Eclipse marketplace or market space? And that is the eGit client that we talked about. The other thing I wanted to announce, just as kind of for those that stayed, and thank you for staying, we have a partnership with GitHub. We are currently the exclusive partner in the IBMI space that we can actually distribute GitHub as well. So if you have any interest in that, feel free to give us a call and we'll be glad to talk to you about that. Are the sources compiled directly on the IFS? And the answer is no. ARCAD compiles from source files on the IBM I in order to be compatible with any other source type / compiler. Certain IBM source types cannot be compiled directly on the IFS, and so there's the limitation there, and that's more of an IBM limitation than an ARCAD one. And I think that's enough questions for now. If for some reason you have more questions, or I could see some coming in, can Jenkins run on IBM I? I'm going to look for an answer from my team on that. I have a question that somebody tried to install eGit on an IBM RDZ, Rational Developer for Z, but it failed. Any advice? That one we'll probably have to take offline. We are not totally Z experts there. And then maybe my team can also look at that last one. Is there any constraint on the RPG source length while using Git? And I don't believe that will be the case. So if you want, we'll leave the panel open. Keep asking your questions. If we don't get to answer them directly here, because we have gone 5 minutes over, we will send you some answers via email to directly address your questions. So as we kind of round things out, Ray, do you have any closing comments or anything you'd like to say?
Not really. I just hope that everybody saw what they wanted to see today. Apologize for running a little bit long. There's just an awful lot of information there, but yeah, I think it's good information, and hopefully folks enjoyed it. So.
Yep. So again, we wanted to introduce you to this kind of new paradigm, this new way of thinking. As I mentioned, there's going to be maybe many that will try to follow, but you can see we are well there, and the idea of DevOps on I is definitely not just some sort of pipe dream. It's a possibility. You don't have to be a born-of-the-web company to exhibit this behavior, and hopefully we showed you what continuous integration looks like. Again, if you have different players in your stack, give us a call. We can talk about alternative paths. The real key here from an ARCAD perspective is that we fill in those gaps. We bring IBM I to the GitHub table, if you will, and to the JIRA table. And that's really the key of the take-home message from today. So with that, I will leave this panel open, but thank you again for spending some time with us, and we will be repeating this at noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern here in the U.S. Ray and I will put the show back on the road, so if you have any friends and you want to send them to that, go ahead and have them register for that. And this will be recorded, and if you'd like the deck, we could send you that as a PDF too, if that will assist you moving forward. Feel free to give us a ring at that email address. Alrighty. With that, thank you, Ray. Thank you, everybody on my team, and really appreciate everybody's assistance with this presentation today. And have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.